remain in Egypt. Aaron?
As we continue in Egypt, where Al Jazeera journalists Mohammed Fahmy and Bahar Mohammed are free on bail after over a year in prison. The pair and a third colleague, Peter Greste, were arrested as part of a crackdown on Al Jazeera following the ouster of President Mohamed Morsi in 2013. They were sentenced last June to between 7 and 10 years in prison, a ruling condemned around the world.
Peter Greste was released earlier this month and deported home to Australia. Then last week, after over 400 days behind bars, Mohammed Fahmy and Bahar Mohammed were freed on bail. On Monday, Bahar Mohammed celebrated his newfound freedom. Despite their release, the case has not been dismissed. A new hearing is scheduled for next week. Democracy Now! Correspondent Sharif Abdel-Quddus has covered the story from the beginning. You can see his report on last week's court proceedings ordering the pair's release at our website, democracynow.org. And he's been covering the case for the Toronto Star, Canada's largest daily newspaper. He interviewed Mohammed Fahmy for a front-page article on Sunday. Very briefly, Sharif, if you can tell us the latest and tell us about Mohammed Fahmy, his feelings now about Egypt, about Canada.
Well, Amy, it was a rare moment of joy in an Egyptian courtroom when the judge ordered bail. They've been in prison for 411 days, and finally they've been released. But I think we have to realize that they still have this ongoing trial. They still face the same charges, and there's still the danger. Mohammed Fahmy has been very critical of the Canadian government. The government of Stephen Harper has close ties to the Sisi regime, and they have not. Harper has not personally intervened. He's calling on Harper to call Sisi. He's looking to be deported to Canada and benefit from a decree that Sisi passed in November, which allowed Peter Greste to be reported. Fahmy was also very upset that he was essentially, he says, tricked into giving up his Egyptian citizenship in the hopes of benefiting from that decree. He was pressured by senior Egyptian officials, and now he had to pay a $33,000 bail to get out when the other prisoners didn't, and he lost his Egyptian nationality. And I just want to take a chance also to highlight the fact that while these journalists have received a lot of attention, there are other journalists who have practically no attention who are imprisoned in Egypt, one of whom is Mahmoud Abu Zaid. His name is he's known as Shawkan. He's a photojournalist. He's been in prison for 550 days in a 3-by-4-meter cell with 12 other prisoners. He describes his ordeal as an endless nightmare. So while we're happy that these two journalists are finally reunited with their families, there's still other journalists in prison and tens of thousands of political prisoners in Egypt as well.
Sharif, I want to thank you for being with us. Sharif Abdel-Quddus, Democracy Now!'s correspondent in Cairo, fellow at the Nation Institute, has just returned from a reporting trip in Libya.